Welcome back into the Irish NFL show. Welcome back into Radio Row Thursday afternoon. Connor Rogers, NBC Sports, good friend of the show, joins me. Connor, I thought Vegas was mental last year. Is this the peak day?
This is the day. This is the day. You look at the schedule, it feels like everyone's here. You got Cam Jordan flying around on a scooter. It's just like chaos everywhere. So Thursday's the elite Radio Row day. Friday's a sneaky one, though. It's a sneaky one.
Yeah, we were talking, the guys last night, what's ahead of us Friday afternoon. I said, I think it's built up over the course of the last 4 years that we've been there. Friday afternoon was very quiet, and then the next year was busier. And then before you know it, last year in Vegas, the Friday was Friday. It was mental.
Right. People like to get in and do some stuff and just right to the game kind of situation. I was here Monday. There was nothing going on.
Quiet day. We just come from the Fox Sports scrum, and that was chaos. Now, we've seen a few of them over the years, but again, from Fox Sport to have the game, is it a me, or does it just go up a level in terms of the people in which they have involved?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, you ask the guys over there, too, and it just feels like everything's turned up a notch. And, of course, we're going to get to hear Tom Brady call the game, which is kind of crazy because we're so used to watching him play in the Super Bowl. So hopefully things will be kind of amplified a couple levels. I'm excited. I'm even more excited next year when NBC has the game. Hopefully that means even more on my plate, but it's a pretty special atmosphere here this year.
I just want to talk to you about draft period. I know it's crazy. People are going to watch this and go, why is Brian getting into draft talk?
It's time.
And you never switch off from draft period.
No, it's 365.
Yeah, we've had you on many a time in the lead up to the draft, and once we kind of think, okay, what's ahead now? We're going to talk about the next phase of the off season. You say, guys, I'm starting immediately for next year. I'm banging. I'm on top of it.
Always, man. That's how it goes. You basically get the draft. You get a couple weeks, then you start the next class all over again. We had Ashton Genty at the set today. 10 out of 10 human, obviously an elite player. I mean, his ability at running back is special. We also had T-Mac, Ted McMillan, the top receiver in the draft. These kids, the confidence level is insane, and they're just such good dudes, and they're amazing players. So it's kind of cool that the draft has been built up so much in the NFL that some of the guys are already coming here, and then they work out. They go to the combine in 2.5 weeks, and then everybody knows their names.
Well, it's funny. That brings me to my next question. This morning we saw Sanders was on site. He was doing a lot of PR work. And a couple of years ago we had the draft where Kenny Pickett went to the Steelers. I think it was 20. He was the only quarterback selected in the draft. Last year was a stellar draft. We spoke about it when we had you here last year in terms of the enormity of these quarterbacks coming out. You even spoke about Bowl LIX and Penix. They went high in the radar at that stage. Some people were suggesting second round. They go in the top 15. And then we're coming back to that stage this year where people are saying, it's not a strong class. Yeah, Cam Ward is a sneaky pick. People are suggesting Sanders, the Giants and Jets.
Yeah.
We need quarterbacks.
Yes.
What's your take on these two right now?
My read right now is I think Cam Ward could very well go number 1 overall. I think Tennessee understands they need a guy under center that they could view as their franchise and develop, especially with the Callahan family there. And then you look at Shedeur Sanders. I don't think it would be a long wait for him. The Giants at 3 makes way too much sense. Brian Dable was down at the Shrine game. I know Shedeur didn't throw at Shrine, but he was there. You get to be around him. You get to talk to him. You get to meet him. I think at the end of the day, both guys are going to go in the top 5. And then I think it's going to be a long wait. Like you brought up the Kenny Pickett draft. Kenny went in the first round, and a lot of guys, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, they waited many, many rounds. I think this year, I know they like Jackson Dart, they like Jalen Milroe. I don't think those guys are going in the first round. So it's truly a 2-quarterback class when you just look at the first-round locks. And it's probably top 5, honestly.
Yeah. I know we speculate, we look at every video, and people now scrutinize the smallest team. We saw Dable and Sanders very close, the high five,
the handshake,
the wristbands, everything going on. Straight away, people are going, okay, that's a match made in heaven.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily play out that way. We don't know what the Browns are a wild card. You put in the Garrett situation, okay, the Browns are saying the obvious thing, we're not going to trade him. But there is a chance of a rebuild here if they were to get major capital back, potentially go quarterback, and they could have a fruitful picks throughout the course of the draft.
Right, they could spoil what the Giants want to do, right? Yeah. And it's, the thing is, what I always look at with the draft here is there's certain teams that you know what they have to do. Like the Giants, they kept Brian Dable and Joe Shane. They have to get a quarterback. Everybody knows that. So if the Browns know that, they have to be sitting there and going, okay, well, if we don't take whoever's there, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, they're off the board with the Giants at 3. So we can't get cute. We can't trade out. But do the Browns want that young quarterback? Or do they go, Kevin Stefanski looks at it and goes, man, I want a veteran. I still think this team can win right now. We're going to try to way to keep Myles Garrett involved, although he wants out. Yeah. So there's so many variables at play. But what you always feel good about is the Giants need a quarterback. The Titans need a quarterback. It's not a lock that they take one, but they feel very likely. While I look at the Browns, they're more up in the air. The Jets at 7, they're too far back. So that's why this draft, it's dangerous to call a draft cut and dried because there's so much variance and unpredictable nature of it. But this one, you can kind of see how those dominoes will fall.
if there was an X factor in terms of a legitimate team that you could see moving up quite a way, in terms of like we saw a few years ago, the Bears move. Sorry, the Panthers move to the Bears. The Bears go back to 9, the Panthers come up to 1, they give away a lot. Who is that team that you look at?
It's the Raiders.
Yeah.
You look at the Raiders.
And is that the Sanders factor?
And it feels like the Sanders factor, right? And hey, maybe that's an area where I was saying how the Browns know the Giants need a quarterback at 3. Maybe the Browns are like, we don't want a quarterback, but we can get a haul.
Yeah.
But we only move back to 7. We're still going to get a great player. Yeah. And then you jump the Giants. So I think that's one where the Raiders, listen, this is Tom Brady's show now. And you have Pete Carroll there. Pete Carroll's looking at it and going, I'm not getting any younger. I want to win right now. So I think you look at the Raiders and they go, like, how long are we going to do this, right? Where it's Aiden O'Connell and, you know, no way to put those guys down. But they want a guy that builds excitement in Vegas. Yeah. Shadur Sanders would build excitement in Vegas.
And does that kind of fall into the fact now that Chip Kelly, for me, it's an obvious play in terms of, if anything kind of strikes me as they definitely are going to go quarterback within reason if they can, because you're bringing you're bringing an offensive minded guy who's had a lot of time with young players in the college game, stepped away from the NFL for a period of time, has come back. It's like as if we need to get someone in who will understand the nature of developing a young quarterback.
That's exactly right. You hire Chip Kelly, you make him probably maybe the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. And what you like about him is, this is a more defined role. When he was a head coach in the NFL, it feels like a lot of things just kind of fell apart out of his control, or some of it was his control. Now he's just a play caller and a developer, right? So you draft a quarterback. He's worked with college quarterbacks for years now, where he understands how to coach, how to train young quarterbacks, how to work with them, for the mental side of it, the physical side of it. So you're right. And then you look at it as well, you know, they're a team that, are the Raiders going to go get Russell Wilson? No. Like they want to do something young and hopeful for sustained success, not this blip on the radar. So I think the Chip Kelly factor, I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's very real when you look at the young quarterbacks in this draft, because if they can't get one of those top 2 guys, then you could see them taking a Jackson Dart. Chip Kelly just coached Will Howard at Ohio State. He's in this draft. And I think you'd rather get one of the top 2 than bet on a project. Well,
actually, Jackson Dart was where I was coming, because last week I watched Charlie Weiss, who last year, and again, the correspondence is there. He had a piece around, he felt Bowl LIX, Michael Penny for Ward, you've been top picks. He scrutinised them. He's very convinced by Jackson Dart. He's seen it every snap from the Mississippi situation. Where are you on Jackson? Is he the kind of that sneaky player that this time next year we will be thinking he wasn't fully evaluated properly, he was a first-round pick?
It's one of the harder ones to project, right? Because you come out of the Ole Miss offense where a lot of the like he has less than 30 snaps under center the last 2 years. And day 1 of the Senior Bowl, I was out there. He struggled to handle the snap from under center. So there's a growing period with him. Does he have a good arm? Yes. Is he mobile? Yes. He picked up a ton of first downs with his legs. He's obviously a gamer. Sometimes he takes some risks that are a little dangerous, and you wonder what he's going to be like out of that Ole Miss Lane Kiffin structure. So if you're taking Jackson Dart, you almost have to treat it, and I know people, this is a low-hanging fruit one, but it's almost how the Chiefs many years ago said, we're taking Mahomes and we're just sitting him. Like, you have to commit. You have to be like, you're going to sit this year. Nothing's going to rock the boat. I think you have to treat Jackson Dart that way, where no matter what, the Patriots wanted to do this with Drake May. And then pressure got to them and they caved. And Drake May had a lot of nice moments this year, but he also got banged up a lot because the team wasn't any good around him. I think with Jackson Dart, it's a situation that you don't want to throw him into the fire. You want to give him a real redshirt year. So a team has to be comfortable and confident in that plan.
In terms of the Eagles Sunday, we're just going to, I suppose, switch our attentions to the big game on Sunday.
Yeah.
You look at Howie Roseman, and time again, he finds his way.
It's unbelievable.
It's just, he hits the ground running with all these players. And we're going into a Super Bowl where, by and large, a lot of their players from the draft class are contributing. And it's not a case of contributing in the sense of, okay, they're in there for 1 or 2 snaps. They might make a big play here and there. It's continuous. It's constant. It's commitment, confirmation. And they've no issue with throwing these players in the big spots.
No, they draft guys that, you look at the track record, right? You think of Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell coming out of school, ton of play experience at corner, goes to the Senior Bowl, matches up with high-level players. Confidence off the charts. Cooper DeJean played at Iowa, played a lot of different positions in the secondary, return punts. Confidence and athleticism is off the charts. They draft players that play, and those guys are even, you look at Toledo for Quinyon, obviously Iowa for Cooper DeJean, all the Georgia guys they've drafted, they like a certain DNA in their player that they feel like they can ask so much of them, and it's paid off. Jalen Carter, obviously, Nolan Smith, all these different guys that they have, they play with such high level of confidence. Vic Fangio can put so much on their plate, so it's a scouting masterclass from Howie Roseman.
When we went live throughout the first round last year, 4 hours, hell of a night. You know, Irish time's like, you know.
Oh yeah, you're committed.
Yeah, 5 a.m. and it was actually 4:45 in the morning when the Bills and the Chiefs made that move, and Wordy goes. And after the playoff game, Woody has a really effective game. The conversation comes again. What were you thinking? Why would you trade with these guys? And every year in which the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, you expect it to be Mahomes. And once it is Mahomes, 9 times out of 10 getting MVP, there is obviously another player that really steps up. We saw in the past in the other Super Bowls. Is it Worthy on Sunday? Is he the X factor from a Chiefs perspective? We've seen Kelsey playoffs come alive again. Or is it the defense and Spagnuolo yet again that just schemes a way to get this victory?
It does feel like it's the defense because they've always answered the bell at the right time. People have been underwhelmed by the Chiefs' offense this year, and then the defense gets a stop when they need it. Now, Worthy, the thing with Worthy is it's not just through the air, but the way they scheme him touches on the ground. He can hit you with the big play at any moment. And you know what the Chiefs want to do? They want to threaten with Kelsey. I think they want to get Hopkins more involved in this game than he's been. Hopefully he's healthy and ready to go. Hollywood Brown has gotten more targets, 3 out of the last 4 games. But when you look at Worthy, just that ability to stretch the field and hit the big play at any moment, the shallow crossers, the screens, the jet sweeps. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, more is on the plate of Kansas City because Kansas City's defense has to come out and show they can stop Saquon Barkley. Like that's just the bottom line. You either can or you can't. Everybody knows what's coming, but can you stop it? It's easier said than done. If their plan with Worthy on offense doesn't work, they have other areas they can pivot to. Where on defense, it's like this is who we are, this is who we've been, this is what's gotten us there all the way. So I think there is a ton of pressure. Excuse me.
The pressure's on Connor right now.
A ton of pressure on that defense to really answer the obvious. Like everybody knows Saquon's getting the ball, but then he hits you with a 25-yard run, and you're like, everyone was there, and he cut back the other way. So this is big for the Chiefs defense.
On our content last week, we were talking about the comparables of last year in the sense of we're a year removed from Christian McCaffrey having that stellar season. He was the marquee player. He was the player that was going to run all over this Chiefs defense. He fumbled the ball on the first drive. He hadn't fumbled for quite a period of time. I joked to the guys, fumbleitis is on the way for Saquon because he hasn't had that opportunity.
Feels like it's been so long since he's made a mistake.
And he hasn't been injured.
You think of the drop against the Falcons so early in the season, then the Falcons go down the field and win. That's the last mistake I remember from the guy.
I'll give you one more. He fumbled the ball against the Jags when he was on the ground. They returned it for a touchdown. Nearly lost that game. Got that one over the line. But to the point, it's few and far between. So it's going to take that bigger play from a Chiefs defense on Sunday. But you know Spags is going to be navigating a way to get that done.
He is. And the thing is, everybody talks about the Eagles' offensive line over and over and over again. Jalen's got to hold the ball. You wonder if one of those big blitzes can get home and forget the sack, knock the ball out, and turn the field that way.
Similar to 2 years ago.
Yes. That's how I think they turn the field in this game, is that can you get a strip sack at Jalen? Because I don't know if he's going to put the ball in harm's way through the air. I don't know if he's going to throw that much. I'm with you. It feels like we're so due for a Saquon mistake, but at the same time, it's Saquon. He feels godlike at this point that he's built for this moment. So I think they need to get the mistake from Jalen and the pressure schemes that they dial up.
It feels like everything is pointing in the right direction in terms of he recently got engaged. It's his birthday on Sunday.
It's his time.
It's his time. And every Giants fan is, crying into their sleep, even ones on this show who will remain impartial. Your overall thoughts on this game? I recall 2 years ago in Arizona, when I arrived, I was convinced that people would say, yeah, it's a great storyline, but ultimately what will happen is the Chiefs will win. But as the week went on, everybody was rolling into the Eagles.
They really
were. And it feels that way again this year. Do you kind of get that sense? And we're going to be here on Monday kind of going, they did it again. Andy Reid and Spagnuolo found the way.
I'm holding strong. I'll be honest. The last couple of years, I just have a personal rule. I will not pick against the Chiefs. I'm in on the Eagles this week. I really am. I just think it's destiny for Saquon here. I think they will be able to run the ball. I think they'll be able to protect the ball enough, keep it out of Mahomes' hand just enough. I mean, we're talking about this is going to be a one-possession game. Everyone knows that. It could come down to a missed kick or a made kick. But I think the Eagles, their roster is so well built across all 53 that the Chiefs have gotten away with it this year, all year, and it's a credit to them. They know how to win. They're well coached. They have the right guys in those situations that have been there before. I think it's the Eagles' time in this one.
I just want to move the dial and move to a very different sport, and this is likely where a lot of Irish people will switch off the coverage, but I'm going to do it anyway because we're Mets fans, and we got the news. Well, 3 o'clock in the morning as we arrived yesterday. Polar Bear is remaining as a Met. You got the Juan Soto deal during the off season. Some other additional marquee pickups, nothing at the level of that, but this feels like the time. The Conas invested so much, and it feels like, is it going to be a situation where the expectation now can be too much for this team? Because we came in such a run, no one expected it to happen, and it was a great story.
It's amazing, right? It's so funny how expectations change your view of a season. The Mets had none after their slow start to the season last year. Them making it to 2 wins away from the World Series is unbelievable. Now you're not the little guy anymore.
No.
Everybody, you got the target on your back. You went out, you spent the big bucks on Soto, you brought back Pete, you brought back Minaya, you built up this bullpen. You know, obviously Lindor's coming off a marvelous year. You got some young guys like Mark Vientos that are ready to roll. You're not the little guy anymore, so expectations are high. I think that puts more pressure on guys, but I think this team's cut out for it. I mean, what a time to be a Met fan. There's no better time to be a Met fan.
Well, you know very well from living in the local community, it feels like it's shifted in terms of, maybe not so much the expectation, but the shift in terms of, it's been a long time where the Mets were legitimate in terms of, there's a Yankee player that we want, and we're going to go
and get him. We're going to do everything we can to get him.
And the enormity of the social media reaction to the move, more so than anything, was striking, even living in Ireland, because it wasn't so much the Mets fans celebrating the deal. Well, there was a lot of social. It was more the reaction of Yankees fans.
I agree. It went through phases of, like, how could this happen to us? Then we could spend the money better than just on one player, to we don't need him. You know how people go through the stages of denial and grief. And I think this is just Steve Cohen taking his stance, right? Aaron Judge was a free agent a couple of years ago. The Mets stayed out of that. This was his time to make the big splash. This is the guy they've been waiting for, 26 years old, one of the best players in the game. There was no number that Steve Cohen was not going to meet.
Yeah. There's no Irish MLB show to come, don't worry.
I'm going to start pitching it, I think.
27th of March, the first game, Houston Astros. Here we go. Connor, you've always been very generous with your time coming on the Irish NFL show.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Colin, back home. Delighted to see you on the show.
Shout out to my guy, Colin. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Connor.